Najee Rutledge, Tyler Cook, and Alexandria Barnaba on our panel this morning. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Sure. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Now, some of our panelists have chosen not to disclose who they voted for, but Najee, you have stated that you voted for President Biden. So what are your thoughts on his first year in office, and do you think he's delivered on his promises?
I think it's been a bit of a bumpy year, but I'm very proud of some of his efforts in office. I feel like I have a president now that I respect, who's presidential, who has integrity, who has tried to unify people. And he's actually accomplished quite a bit. We've got vaccine shots in arms, access to COVID tests, jobs. I think we have 6 million new jobs. Diversity has been a really big deal. We've got 8 new Black Circuit federal court judges, diversity in his administration. So he's delivered on a lot of promises. There's been an increase in funding to HBCUs. He hasn't delivered on everything. So if I had to grade him, it'd probably be more of a B than an A. But I'm very proud that I have a president who I respect, who is working hard for the American people.
Okay, well, Tyler, you said that you voted for Donald Trump. So how do you feel about the president's first year?
Yeah, I did vote for President Trump. And, I think that with President Biden, I'm pleasantly surprised is for the first time since we've been dealing with the pandemic last week, with the ability to order at-home COVID tests, the federal government allowed me to have a direct benefit that's going to actually, go into protecting myself and my family. So I see his COVID response is being the first one that actually, gave the individual the tools that they need, as opposed to having to rely on, states or agencies. And so I appreciate that part of the response. The thing that concerns me is the thing that President Biden talked about a little bit on the campaign trail, that unfortunately it doesn't look like it's going to get any traction, because my concern is with the Supreme Court and the direction that they're taking. It's being really politicized based on President Trump's appointees, and I was hoping that the Supreme Court Commission would deliver, some avenues for change. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's the case. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the way ahead.
Gotcha. Well, Stephen, what do you think President Biden has done well, and what are some things that you may have found to be a little disappointing?
The areas that I'm focused more on is, as a nurse, having worked on COVID units, the pandemic response as a whole has felt reactive instead of proactive. From the initial vaccine rollout, when there was so much waste of vaccines because we were restricting who was allowed to get it. The tests, while it is great that every American household will be able to get 4, it would have been nice if we could have done that sooner instead of 12 months out. And so my hope is that we can start being more proactive in a pandemic response, because that was what Biden campaigned on, was that he would shut down the virus. But when he says that there's no federal solution, it comes across as disappointing.
Okay, well, Alexandria, I want to know, how do you feel about what the president has accomplished so far, and what are some things that you think he could have perhaps handled better?
As far as his accomplishments and things that he's done well, I will say that unemployment, of course, has dropped significantly. That is always a plus, Also, we can see the goal for the vaccinations has been met that he originally stated with his administration. But as far as things that he could have handled better, I believe the numbers are 87% of Black voters voted for him. And his response to the Rittenhouse verdict was very disappointing, if not disrespectful, to say the least. It's almost like he kind of forgot what exactly put him in this position, and the stance, and also the disappointment with the Voting Rights Act. It's just, in order to meet the kind of expectations African American voters had for the president that they elected, would just be lackluster, and I would say, in my opinion.
So overall, Alexandria, would you say you are pleased or disappointed with his first year in office?
I'm with my degree is in political science, so I have a level of understanding that a lot of the first year is just kind of undoing what their predecessors have done. But in a sense, there has to be a balance where you can accommodate all Americans and make all Americans feel comfortable without being offensive to certain groups trying to, reach across the aisle. So I would say it's okay. It's okay. It could be better, but it's tolerable.
I gotcha. Well, Stephen, what about you? What grade would you give him?
C minus.
C minus. Okay, Tyler, your thoughts?
Solid B.
All right, so let's talk about his low approval rating. Professor Rutledge, are you surprised by this at all?
Not surprised at all. I think Alex really touched on something important for Black voters. We're very disappointed, I think, with his promises when he originally got elected that he had Black voters' backs. And we expected protection for things like voting rights. And that really should have been prioritized. So I think that when I talk to my friends in the Black community, they're not just frustrated. And I have a little bit of frustration, but I'm cautiously optimistic. They're angry. And the Democratic Party really needs to work on that. So that would be my main concern in terms of, voting rights and criminal justice reform that he hasn't done. And I think that's why his approval rating is low. However, it's higher than Trump's was, although it's lower than Barack Obama's.